Microsoft is a lot better at making money than it is at making good operating systems.
Perhaps Lena should not be the spokesperson for this Microsoft Linux merger. Maybe find somebody. Maybe you or I. Maybe.
All right, it's that time again for another Sunday night news and nonsense. My buddy Deckard said he wasn't feeling too good today, but I've got Total OS Today here with me. How you doing, Toss?
Good to be here. Blah, blah, blah.
And Toss, I think we finally reached that point in time where I think Linus Torvalds should be rejoicing right now. Because he has this quote that he's very well known for, that if Microsoft ever does applications for Linux, it means I've won. And I'm here to officially announce that Linus has won, if what he said is true. How do you like that?
Well, of all the people to say that Linux has won, because Linux has somehow, what's the word, merged with Microsoft, or at least dabbled. It's tested the waters, as it were. It's strange, isn't it?
It is, and it's really interesting the direction that Microsoft has been taking, and but we'll get to those topics shortly. The hot news on the Spatry desktop here is that Linux ransomware could very soon be affecting everyone. Couldn't believe it when I saw this article, but it's true. The year 2016 really seems to be the year of Linux ransomware, which has come into the limelight since a couple of months. Malware coders are making progress, and it looks like they are here to stay, which is evident from the fact that the ransomware has already passed more than one development life cycle. Now, there is a happy side to this, of course. Even the cyber criminals make mistakes, and there is a Linux .encoder decryption tool for all those who got infected. And we hope this tool keeps developing so that we can tackle the ransomware properly now and in the future. Toss, I think it's getting to the point where now I need to consider maybe the possibility of setting up a virtual machine for surfing the internet.
Well, this is something that we talked about last week during the show last Sunday, and it's something I've mentioned on my channel the last couple of weeks. This is serious business. I didn't realize it, but I did some research a couple of weeks ago. But the last couple of years, ransomware developers, if you want to call it that, and of course it's mainly on Windows machines, they have raked in over $300 million. And if this is accurate, Spatry, why should they stop with Windows? Why not go to Mac? And there was an instance of a piece of ransomware in Mac. And why not go further along and try to get a hold of it somehow in Linux? It's big business. And you are right. There are a couple ways if you are running Windows. Use a Linux distribution in a virtual machine, or just buy a machine, a PC preloaded with Windows. That way, if you are absolutely new to Linux, if the Linux desktop is preloaded, there's no problems with software compatibilities with the hardware. But Spatry, you are right. It's changing. The market's changing. I guess it is a brave new ransomware world. It's kind of disturbing because at least here in the States, a couple hospitals had to cough up thousands of dollars to get their information back. And I'm assuming they didn't have proper backups. I don't know the entire story, but it is serious. It's not just tied into Windows. And all things considered, look, you are still safe for using a Mac PC or something with Linux, but are you completely safe at this day and age? I would say no.
And we can't stress enough, back up your home directory. Luckily, though, if we're smart enough not to give our password to an unsolicited pop-up window that's asking for your root password, pretty much your root file system is going to be safe. Unless, of course,
Yes.
you're giving it your password and that sort of thing. At least on a Linux file system. But as Deckard stated last week, we don't negotiate with terrorists. If your data gets encrypted, luckily Linux has a tool for it. We don't negotiate with terrorists. Use the Linux decryptor and that sort of thing. And then I'm telling you, Toss, if it ever happens to me, I'm gonna start using a virtual machine to surf the internet every time.
Right.
I'll just slap a fresh a live CD image of Manjaro into a virtual machine and just surf the internet that way and keep my system protected. So yeah, and that'll be the end of it.
Yeah. Briefly, real quick, for all the Windows users, one of the best way, if you are just using Windows, and that's fine, do not open unknown or suspicious or unsolicited emails. That's probably the number one way to catch this piece of nasty software.
And also mind where you're surfing the internet too.
Yes,
there's a lot of shady websites out there too. Okay. Linus Torvalds, I hope you're making cartwheels wherever it is that you're living up there, because it appears that Microsoft releases open source CentOS-based, quote, Linux data science virtual machine for Azure. You heard me correctly. Microsoft has released its own CentOS-based Linux distribution.
I have breaking news. Those two companies, they're merging. Microsoft and Linux is merging, and they're calling themselves Micro Linux.
Well, it really does appear this way, doesn't it? That Satya Nadella is taking Microsoft in a completely different direction. Microsoft is both an open source and Linux champion nowadays, it appears, on the surface at least.
Yes.
In other words, while it does embrace those things, we may not know the motivation of the Windows maker regarding them. Regardless, Linux and open source are now important to the Redmond company. Okay, now they're making things easier. And we've said this before, because now they have their Azure platform. And I don't know. One person, I was reading a number of articles. One person was making a prediction that it's a possibility in the next 10, 20 years, Microsoft may actually be transitioning over to a Linux platform for their OS, yet still keeping their desktop experience at the top of the stack. I don't know if it'll play out that way, but you never know. I mean, because, now we're starting to see, Bash and that sort of thing. And I have another article related to that further on down the line in the show today. But yeah, go ahead, Toss.
No, I never thought I would hear a piece of news like that. Microsoft and Linux as a one big happy family. I think it's terrific personally. That way everybody can weigh in on their opinions, and everybody maybe this can benefit anybody. I'm not sure yet, because we talked about it last Sunday night and maybe suspicious things going on. Honestly, it's all speculation now, to be fair. I don't know where the end game is for this, but it sounds very interesting to say the least.
Well, this is news and nonsense, Toss.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
But apparently, truth is stranger than fiction,
Yes.
We're just going to have to see how this one plays out.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, here's something interesting. This is from the Register. And Richard Stallman has just been in the news, dated April 12th. Bundling ZFS and Linux is impossible, says Richard Stallman. The GNU man doesn't mention Oracle or Ubuntu, but that's who he's lashing. Free Software Foundation president and GNU public license author Richard Stallman has weighed in on the spat on whether Ubuntu can legally include ZFS in Linux with a resounding no. Stallman has issued a statement, and he says, explains some issues about the meaning and enforcement of the GNU General Public License. The specific occasion for this article is the violation of combining Linux with ZFS.
Yes, I've had many sleepless nights weighing in on this. Oh, please.
Well, apparently, ZFS, is under the Common Development and Distribution License version 1, which supposedly is incompatible with the GNU GPL. Now, that's what he's saying anyway. There's a little bit of controversy going on and on about it. But at any rate, it's, if you guys want to find out more, just Google it. It was very easy to find. It's in this week's Linux news. So, yeah.
Hang on. Let me call my attorney. Hey, Tony, this, okay. All right. Next topic.
What, you don't have any news, Toss?
Well, here's something here's a headline that you just don't see every day. U.S. government.
Uh-oh. Go ahead.
This is real. It's not really, it's true, but it's nonsense at the same time. But U.S. government urges Windows users to uninstall QuickTime immediately because of security issues. Think about it. When the U.S. government urges you to shut down something because of security problems, you know you got a problem. Something with QuickTime that's not being supported by Apple anymore, and they're telling you flat out uninstall it. That's pretty serious.
Well, the thing is, every multimedia player out there can play QuickTime, the QuickTime format.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It just sounds funny. The U.S. government is scared out of their minds that uninstall this. It's serious. Yeah, I know.
It appears that Microsoft was serious about Linux apps running natively on Windows 10. And according to The Geek, they're saying things got a little freaky last week when Microsoft and Canonical showed us Bash running natively on Windows 10. And it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg, Toss. Though most reports focused on Bash itself, what Microsoft and Canonical actually delivered was a complete Linux userland. It can handle more than just Bash, and it turns out that it can actually handle a whole lot more than just apps that run in a terminal window. Intrepid experimenters running the latest Windows 10 preview build that have been playing with this new functionality have actually gotten GUI-based Linux apps to run under Windows. Yes, really. Which makes this sound like one of the craziest things Microsoft has ever done. It could be right up there with putting $150 million into Apple to keep them afloat in the late 90s.
Well, let me just say that I feel no need to bash that story.
Well, get this though, the GUI version of Vim, Nautilus, get it, Firefox, that's the Linux version of Firefox, have been reported to run. And amazingly, someone even managed to get XFCE running as well, but they used Sigwin they cheated. They used Sigwin for that.
Uh-oh. Well.
So, while most apps don't work flawlessly, that's to be expected because this is just an early version that Microsoft is letting people test, and all the experimenting that users are doing right now will help them iron out the kinks. So, yeah.
Well, like I said, this still all sounds very bizarre, but hey, we'll see what the future brings us. But you know what? It sounds promising. It just sounds weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so, and I still say that Linus Torvalds was probably doing cartwheels right now. Although he
Actually,
still wants Linux to be on everybody, he wants Linux to take over the desktop, but it's now infecting Windows. It's in our tablets. It's gone everywhere. It's like a virus, Toss.
oh no, give me a shield. Look out, here it
but
comes.
but at least it's a good, well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
spreading all over the place. It's in our TVs. Linux is in our smart refrigerators, our smart toilets, that
I know, it's like a rash. I can't
smart
get rid of
phones.
it.
Absolutely. Now it's infecting Windows.
All right, let's move on. Let's get out of these. Well, speaking of infections, I have a bit of nonsense news that's real, actually.
Go ahead.
I told you today I saw my very first live Tesla car, the very fantastic all-electric car that's built here in California. Well, apparently the next model car that has a 2-year waiting list for pre-orders. I didn't see that car, but I saw the one that's being made now. I forget what it's called, but the one that's coming out next year or the year after, there's a very unusual feature in that car, Spatry. It has, of all things, a bioweapon defense mode in the air infiltration system. Now, I have a question, Tesla. Where exactly are you testing these cars? And number two, is there something I should know?
We are the Borg. You will be assimilated.
Yeah, so now they asked, it was funny because I think CNN or someone asked a colonel about this. The colonel says, they didn't really say that, did they? So I can imagine, why would you need, look, don't you just hate it when you're driving down to the grocery store and you get hit with, sarin gas and anthrax? It just ruins my day. So, maybe a car like this, I got to drive.
Well, wouldn't that be funny though? Somebody goes to break into your car, and they get behind the wheel, and then all of a sudden, these little things come out and shock the person who's trying to run off with your vehicle.
Right. Yeah, right. He has a piece of his skin laying on the side. Yeah.
So I mean, this isn't unheard of, but yeah, anti-theft.
Yeah.
What is that? The anti-theft punishment system.
I think I would buy into that versus a bioweapon. Give me a break, bioweapon defense. Gee, is it the missile, like missile defense ready too? I mean, I don't know. But anyway, I just thought that was ridiculous. But I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful car and all that. And I think it has a 200-mile range per charge, which isn't bad. It really isn't bad, but the car has a lot of good features. I didn't think I felt the need for them to hype it with some kind of Star Wars James Bond, the bioweapon defense mode, because you never know when you're going to be attacked by a anthrax missile.
I like a little napalm with my morning coffee for breakfast.
Yes, that'll wake you up, yeah.
All right, and here's a quote from Linus Torvalds. I'm perfectly happy complaining because it's cathartic. And I'm perfectly happy arguing with people on the internet because arguing is my favorite pastime, not programming.
What?
True, these are Linus Torvalds quotes. I started the show with a Linus Torvalds quote, and I've got a whole list of them. Go ahead.
He likes to argue. The man who is behind the user humanitarian freedom choice operating system called Linux likes to argue? Fine, give me his phone number. I'll give him a freaking argument. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Here's another one. By staying neutral, I end up being somebody that everybody can trust. Even if they don't always agree with my decisions, they know I'm not working against them.
Oh boy. Okay.
Go ahead, Toss.
Let me just stick with some more car news to get away from that. But this was actually a couple of weeks ago on April 1st. I thought it was an April Fool's Day jokes batch, but this is real. Here in the States, an SUV flees cops, takes out a Navy jet fighter. Where can I buy that
What?
car? Right. Kiss my blank bleem Tesla. Yeah, apparently the California Highway Patrol was chasing this SUV. Somehow it got into a secure secure military base, and crashed into a $60 million Navy jet fighter. I think it was like a Jeep. So basically, you had a $6 Jeep take out a $60 million jet. Yeah, sounds about right. They don't know how it got into the secure military base, but that's just a headline you just don't see every day, do you?
I guess not. All right, here's another quote from Linus Torvalds. I don't try to be a threat to Microsoft, mainly because I don't really see Microsoft as competition, especially not Windows. The goals of Linux and Windows are simply so different.
Oh, and the fact that they're merging doesn't mean anything, right?
All right, here's another one. In my opinion, Microsoft is a lot better at making money than it is at making good operating systems.
Oh, boy. Okay.
What you got to us?
I have. I don't. Perhaps Lena should not be the spokesperson for this Microsoft Linux merger. Maybe find somebody. Maybe you or I. Maybe. Okay, so anyway, I have. Oh, geez. I have one more car related story. You might like this one. This is a real nonsense. Here we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
An Australian man was arrested for having a seatbelt around his beer, but not his child. This is for real. He had 2 cases of beer. There's a picture of it, I guess, in the front seat with the seatbelt, but not his children. Well, look, this is really good. Look, the mortality rate of beer is just getting
Priorities.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. Well, that's all I have for the nonsense.
Take us out, Toss.
Once again, thank you for listening in on the Sunday night snooze news and nonsense report. Join us every Sunday night, courtesy of Spatry's Cup of Linux. You do not have to be a Linux user to listen. And if you paid attention to the last 20 minutes, Microsoft and Linux are friends. If all you use is Microsoft, a Spatry would say you are forgiven. So you can join us every Sunday night.
No. We still say this season we're going to get you to kick Microsoft to the curb, Toss.
We'll have to talk about that next week. But yeah,
if we have to hold you at gunpoint, it'll be for your own good to get you to kick Microsoft to the curb.
I will be leaving the country to an undisclosed location. That's all I have. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next Sunday night, Eastern Time, New York time, here on the Mumble channel. Adios.
Get off my mumble, Toss, and I'll talk to you about this next week. Goodbye!